You're very welcome back. Now, we all love to have a few pounds saved for a rainy day, and our next guest promises to save you 25 grand with his new book.
And he's been welcomed with open arms into the studio this morning. Author and journalist Charlie Weston joins us. Good morning, Charlie.
Good morning, guys.
Hi, Charlie.
When somebody says they're going to save you 25 grand, it brought a smile to my face.
You listen up, don't you?
Yeah, and then you kind of look at the book and look at the details. So it's kind of what you're telling people is that across everything in terms of the household, collectively, you can save somebody about 25 grand a year.
You can save an awful lot. Mightn't necessarily be that every household saves 25,000 euros, but because we're assuming here that you're on probably the wrong deal, the wrong energy deal, you're maybe the wrong mobile deal, you're paying too much for your mortgage. But I could confidently predict that most houses are probably on one of the deals they have is probably the wrong one. Most houses probably don't put enough attention into this, and most houses could dip into this book and find ways that they could save money. And you know, if you put €1,000 on the table there, and people would say, I could save that. You take tax refunds alone. There's probably about €1,000 available on that a year. You can go back 4 years. So revenue will allow you to go back 4 years. So there are lots of savings, and we take you through it in a very simple step-by-step way.
You see, I think that's the key. I think everybody, and I think you'll agree with this, Anna, is that everybody knows that if I had the time to dedicate 2 hours a week to ringing around and getting my car insurance and quotes and my house insurance and the energy bills, it's kind of logic that tells you if you shop around, you probably will get the best deal.
But how do you go about it?
We're not the best nation of shopping around or switchers, are we, Charlie?
We're not great. I mean, the thing we've probably switched the most is motor insurance. And that should not be a surprise, given that motor insurance rates went up an average of 70% in the last 3 years. But then only a third of us do that. Only 28% of us do that. I would have thought more people should be doing that, because if you get a renewal notice, they're inevitably not going to give you a decent deal. You need to do a bit of legwork to ensure you get a better deal.
They phrase the renewal letters, so there's nothing you have to do.
Yes, we've made it so easy for you.
We've made it so easy. Just do nothing and just carry on.
When you know, if you have the time, if you're not intimidated by it, if you ring a decent broker or a few brokers who represent lots of insurance companies, you're guaranteed to get a better deal. And let them do the work for you. Let them do it, and you don't have to pay them. And yes, you're guaranteed to get a better deal. You can always go back to your original insurer and say, hold on a minute here, I got AXA or Aviva gave me this quote. Here it is, I have it on email. Can you match that? And they probably will match it.
And that usually results in a very different conversation, doesn't it?
All of a sudden. And you know, new customers are treated differently to old customers. If there's nothing for loyalty in this country. If you were at the same company for a while, they're not going to do anything to probably do very little for you. Whereas they want to get new customers, so the deals are all for the new customers. There's very little in terms of retention.
Which can be very frustrating, actually. Mortgages getting lots of attention this week in particular, Charlie. I think we live in a culture where we're so delighted to actually get a mortgage that we pay these extraordinary amounts in interest.
We have some of the highest variable mortgage rates in Europe in this country. You know, and this was exposed by us in the Irish Independent about 3 years ago. And we just don't see decent value. About 300,000 households out there have a mortgage on a variable rate, which is too high. And you could do stuff to deal with that. You're right, it's in the news this week because AIB had a slew of cuts across their variable rates, their fixed rates and their loan-to-value rates.
But that's good for the consumer in terms of that's bound to have a knock-on across the market in terms of the other banks.
It is.
So maybe now is the time to
start thinking about it, because the other banks now have to start thinking. AIB, biggest share of the mortgage market, they've had big cuts. The others will be forced to respond. But if they don't, you should at least think about, can you do something better? Even without moving bank, if you switch to a fixed rate,
so what should we be on ideally, Charlie?
Well, you know, I suppose the problem is you have so many people on trackers. We should be on in Europe, across the Eurozone, and we're part of the Eurozone, you can get decent 20-year rates for 2%. And yet, you know, AIB has the best variable rate, but it's only coming down to 3.15. So even though AIB has had a decent cut this week, it's still going to be expensive. It's still overpaying for mortgages. So you need to do a bit of work, and we take you through that in a very step-by-step guide, simple ways to kind of ensure you get better value.
Mobile phones.
Yeah, mobile phones we all use mobile phones. We have more mobile phones in this country than we have people. We have something like 5 million. A lot of us maybe overpay for them. It's one that's easy to fix. But on the other hand, the other problem is confuseology comes into play here. This is where there's so many tariffs, so many different players. You're confused. You don't know which one you should be on. It kind of depends on how many texts you send, much data you use, whether you make a lot of calls. You know, I could be just the same user, but on 2 different plans one plan will cost me €75 a month, another will cost me €25 a month. And it's because, of my usage pattern.
So what
plan,
kind of
one
questions,
plan might,
Charlie,
might,
do
might
we need
suit
to
me.
be... Like, when you think of older people, they're not even sure the right questions to ask, around data usage or whatever.
Yeah.
So what should we be looking for when we walk in to negotiate that mobile phone contract?
The thing about it is you have a contract at the moment. Think about whether you should switch. I mean, there are things you can do. You can go on to callcost.ie, that's the regulator's website, put in some details, and it would suggest other alternatives. Another thing you can do is a Dublin company called killbiller.com. They have an app you can download for free. It would look at you have to allow to do this, it would look at your usage and say, oh, here's 3 alternatives that would save you a whole clatter of money every month. And we suggest maybe you sign up for this plan with this operator.
Okay.
So it works it out for you. It does all the work for you. And then you just simply, you switch then. If you're out of contract, often we sign into a 12-month contract, and if we get a new phone, we're locked in. But once you're not in a contract, you have the option of moving to somebody else. You keep your own phone, you keep your own phone number, and you get a better deal.
Are all the options in terms of mobile phones, in terms of saving money, are they only available through contract and bill pay, or
They're through both.
pay as you go? Are there options there?
Both, Simon. You can opt for bill. It doesn't matter whether you're on bill pay or whether you're pay as you go.
There's savings there.
There are savings to be made. It's one of the easiest ones to do. €300 is typical saving a year for somebody who gets a decent mobile phone contract.
One that's fairly high visibility in terms of people physically knocking at your door is the energy companies. And what always annoys me is, and we do switch, probably not as often as we should, but you would switch. But then the company you switch to, they'll knock on your door 3 weeks later and say, what annoys me is that we've already done it. We're not in a database somewhere to stop knocking at the door.
Well, maybe that's only right, actually, that they don't know what you're doing. But I don't really like those things. They're kind of, their sales pitch tends to be, they're not terribly honest. They're telling you, what are they comparing the rates with? They're talking about a standard rate, and they pick one out of the air. You don't know what they're comparing. They're saying you could save X. We have a really healthy competitive market in energy. There's another player just joined the market last week called Just Energy, big American-Canadian corporation. So that brings to 10 the number of players in the energy market.
Is there 10, really?
There's 10, so we really should be...
I would have named 3, would you?
But I think our culture, Charlie, particularly maybe older people, is that, can we trust them?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah. Well, you can.
Will we sign up to them and they'll be gone this time next year?
No, they won't. I mean, and they're fairly tightly regulated, but, there's 10 players now, and a lot of them are big companies. They're international companies, and they always have a deal. Energia tends to be one of the cheaper ones. On the gas side, Flow Gas. And they're offering cash back as well, as an incentive. They'll give you up to €100 back. It's very simple to do. You don't need to get an electrician to your house to do it. You just get out your bill. You go onto one of these price comparison sites like bonkers.ie or switcher.ie. They will give you information on the deals, the best deals out there, and just switch over.
Let them do the work.
I think the fact that I didn't even know there was 10 providers out there.
No, I certainly didn't think there was 10.
I would have said maybe 3, 4.
There's healthy competition.
I laughed when I read your bananas chapter. There's a lot of this is bananas. Irish people buying fruit, and I do it myself. Fill the fruit bowl, and then we throw it all out.
Joke. Europeans buy fruit to eat it. Yeah. Irish people buy fruit to make it look good, and they end up throwing it out. They never eat it. We're bad at eating fruit. So, there's nothing worse than black bananas going mouldy, So a little trick, a little hack is you get the stem, you cover it you break them off individually, and you cover the stem with a bit of cling film, and that preserves them much longer. They don't rot so much because the gases don't go down into the banana.
Really?
So it's just a little trick, It might not be the prettiest thing in the world, but it works.
Wow, it's the little things, isn't it? Decluttering and selling your stuff as well.
Yeah, we all have too much stuff. I mean, tell me about it. We had to move out of our house for a while there because we're having pyrite removed. But the amount of stuff we accumulate, particularly a couple of teenagers, we really should go through it and once a year do an audit of what we have and go and sell it online or give it to a charity. We all buy books and we don't always reread them.
Charlie, I'd say this is going to be a book that's very well received and very well read. If you're promising people you can make those savings for them, thanks for coming.
And we'll have you in the kitchen doing banana bread next week, Charlie.
Banana Preservation, that's your next book.
Banana Preservation Society.
Right, coming up after the break, we're putting the man in manicure. Stay with us, I can't wait.
Right.